Good morning, everyone. This is Frank Donaldson, and would like to welcome you to this ISPD webinar, hosting a successful and creative open house in your Catholic school. This particular webinar is always one that we like to offer this time of the year. Several hundred people across the country are attending this webinar, and we'd like to welcome all of you. Several things that we always mention as we move forward in this presentation is that within several days of this presentation, all of the attendees will receive a copy of this PowerPoint. Secondly, in order to receive a copy of the PowerPoint, please stay online after I sign off, and there will be a survey that will pop up that you can fill in within a minute, and then that survey is sent to go to webinar with Citrix, and that shows us that you indeed attended the webinar, and from that point we will send out the PowerPoint. Secondly, if there are any questions that you have during the course of the presentation, please feel free to keyboard them in, and from time to time I will look at the questions and see if there is any particular question that I can answer right then and there. Once again, that will be something that we will certainly deal with, and if I cannot get to all of the questions, then certainly we will answer them all at the end of the webinar. So let's begin. There are a lot of webinar agenda topics for this one. Very popular topic because open house is one of the most important activities that any Catholic school can do. And so we will take a look at a bunch of different things. We always start with our background. Those of you who might have taken the Back to School Night webinar back in August, you will see that we will repeat a few things in Roman numeral 2. There are 60% of the people that are taking this webinar today who did not take that webinar. So bear with me on Roman numeral 2. We will have to go back and just make sure we repeat and make sure everybody's on the same page. Being an old Catholic school English and theater arts teacher many, many years ago, I always made sure that in the spring production we had a good backdrop. And so unless I was directing our town, I made sure that that backdrop was a really good one. And so we have to deal with Roman numeral 2 for just a few minutes. So these are some of the topics that we'll be working with, all the way from the types of open houses, to outcomes, to messages, to packets, to involvement, to the focus areas, activities, the sign-in, the welcome, the schedule, the follow-up. Is your open house warm? Is your open house cold? So as we move on through this, one of the things that I always find important to mention at the beginning of this presentation is that there are a lot of you that are doing a lot of this that we'll be presenting. A lot of what we're presenting is best practices. And so as we take a look at this presentation is geared for secondary as well as elementary schools. And yet at the same time, I always like to say that our goal in presenting this is to those who do not present a comprehensive open house, hopefully you can get a comprehensive picture of what one looks like. Number 2, those of you that do already present a very comprehensive open house, maybe there's 2, 3, 4, 5 new ideas that you can glean from this presentation that will help you this year. As I said, my name is Frank Donaldson, and we are ISPD, Institute for School and Parish Development, headquartered in the greater New Orleans area. And contact information, and this will all be sent to you. So obviously the anchors that we always paint our backdrop with are that development, advancement, enrollment management, marketing. Basically what we really are talking about really over and over again is how do we meaningfully involve people into our mission and vision. And this is the same way and the same thing for open house. How do we meaningfully involve people? How do we make sure that the people who come to our open house leave feeling that they really belong. And so, as many of you know, we have always used the 7I approach, especially it is apropos to open house, enrollment management, marketing, where we continually identify people, we continually inform them, we personally invite them, we try to get them involved in our culture, we certainly get them involved in terms of implementing their application, implementing their admissions, and implementing them into the flow of the school, which leads to their feeling invested in us, and we are invested in them. And then obviously, the reason why everyone is taking this webinar today is to simply maybe raise the bar a couple of notches and say, how can we improve? And so, a little background that we presented in the Back to School webinar that I need to go back and repeat. And once again, those of you who took that webinar, you've seen these slides before, but I think we need to drive them home again. This effectiveness is going to be in relationship to the quality of your culture. The culture that really is everyone's responsibility, not just the administration, not just the admissions director, not just the faculty and staff, but everyone who's involved, our students, our alums, our parents. And so it's really important that this customer service culture, and let me define those words, customer service. That doesn't mean that the inmates are running the asylum. That simply means that we are serving each other. Everyone is a customer of each other. We are a customer as a principal of the faculty and staff, and the faculty and staff is a quote-unquote customer of the principal. The same thing with the new family, the same thing with the student. Everyone serves one another in a quote-unquote customer service culture. We're not looking at this as a business model. We're looking at this from the standpoint of realizing that this culture, this giving, this openness, this belonging leads to believing feeling. It's not strained, it's not forced. It is a deep, abiding belief that we're there to serve. And that culture needs to be permeated. And it starts at the top. And as I said, it's the way we treat each other, those we serve, and those who serve us. That's what we mean by customer service. So please don't misconstrue the term. It simply means that really, we believe in our school. It's a great place to be, and we're bursting at the seams to invite people to belong. And so Catholic schools are challenged. We're challenged to take either a proactive approach to this enrollment management, an open house idea, or a reactive approach. The customer service culture, though, will really almost force us to take a proactive approach in that we seek to build a school where we can establish a relationship with a family for a lifetime. There are different kinds of open houses that we've seen across the country over the last 25 plus years. There is the one for your present parents, that's a back to school night. There is the one for returning students to see who will be back the next year. This often is done at the elementary school. There is the prospective families where the promotion for this is mainly centered on one or two church parishes or to a limited area. And then there's the one we're going to talk about today. This is for any and all prospective families whose ages fit the grade levels of your Catholic school. This is the comprehensive open house, a multi-dimensional and dynamic in approach and appeal. And so with that, I think it's important that we realize that open house is important, but I also think that many Catholic schools place so much importance on it that they kind of lose sight. Sometimes we lose sight that this is not the end all and catch all. It is so important. It is a very important event and activity. But at the same time, this is a great area to funnel prospective families, but there are many other areas that Catholic schools incorporate across the country. And I'm sure many of you do many of these things. The shadow days, some schools call them bring a friend days. The academic games and the sports camps and the neighborhood meetings in your parents' homes and the fun events that you have throughout the year for prospective students, the outreach to your feeder sources, and so as you continue all of this outreach, remember the open house is important, but the open house is all part. It's one of the main dots in the system of enrollment management, and all the dots can connect. Remember, too, at the bottom of this slide, it's so important that all our research points to one thing. The number one reason why people select a Catholic school is in direct relationship to the number of times that prospective student or family has been on campus. Really, really important. So just to be on campus just once for the open house, well, that can be solidified. That can be enhanced. That can be supplemented with other things that bring families and students on campus. I think it's important too, and this has been interesting to us, is that not a lot of schools do this, and I want to share this with you because we think it can be important. You know, everyone involved in your open house, your administration, your faculty, your staff, your ambassadors, we feel that should create and work towards setting a set of desirable, measurable outcomes that can be done in advance of the event. For example, these could just be some samples now. You don't have to take a look and say you have to hold to this, but these could be examples where maybe you set, the number of prospective students that should attend. Maybe that becomes a measurable outcome. The number of promos and public service announcements and news releases you send out. The number of yard signs in your parents' and friends' yards announcing your open house. The number of involvement cards received at the conclusion, and we'll talk about a bunch of cards at open house as we did for the back to school night. The number of announcements and bulletin inserts into the Catholic parishes and into the partner elementary schools. And if you're an elementary school, the number of bulletins that go into some of your feeder sources in terms of your PSR programs and other parishes that feed into your elementary school, as well as areas such as the gymnastics center and the karate center and things of this nature. Number of please contact me cards, which we'll talk about. These outcomes should be set and agreed upon by your core team. Now, the core team, which should have representation from all leadership groups. And that core team is that group of people that are working with you to pull all of this off. And so it's going to be important that these outcomes are widely known so everyone can strive to meet them. We think having these outcomes down on paper and let everybody see these, that's really important. And so you can then strive and set goals, and you can measure then from year to year how this has been improved. I know a lot of folks the main measurements that's used is the number of people who show up for open house. I say go beyond that. Go beyond that. Take a look at other areas that this can happen. And then getting together after that open house and going through the desired incomes will obviously help in the planning in 2016-17. Another thing too is let's talk about messages and themes. And I'm sure many of you do this, but once again, getting a comprehensive open house organized is really has a lot of challenges to it. In the beginning, very important to decide upon what your messages are going to be. So what is your brand? What are those 5 or 10 items that you want all people involved in open house to repeat and promote? We call it your top 10. There is, as I mentioned, there is a wonderful PowerPoint presentation that was presented by the advancement director at Cecina Memorial High School in Indianapolis, Bob Golubish, at NCA Convention. And I have sent, with Bob's permission, I have sent that PowerPoint to a number of people throughout the country, and it shows you how you can get your top 10. That's an example of that. Think if all the messengers at your open house had 10 points to really push and sell, then all the messengers share that same message. I'll be glad to send you that PowerPoint. Just simply send me an email, and I will do that. Then also, what distinguishes your Catholic school? What makes you unique? We call that your wow. What is your wow? What is that? Okay, what is that? We've written a couple of newsletters about that, which I'll be glad to send. And what is that wow? That one thing that distinguishes you. And then making sure your messaging resonates with your demographic. And then sometimes for especially folks that are going to be helping you with open house, your parents, your students, your alums, your faculty, your staff, maybe giving them that 30-second commercial where the elevator speech, as we sometimes refer to it. So the messages and themes become really important. So what do you also want to highlight this school year? What words and phrases do you want to use? What are those themes that run through all of your communication pieces? Where do you want to drive your prospective families to? And we'll talk about that a little bit later in what we call the closing room. So seek that input. And then above all, with messages and themes, remember, whatever you sell, quote unquote, you should also state the benefits. For example, you may brag on your community service, your technology, your academics, your test scores, but you're going to need to answer the question for the parent and the prospective student who may be thinking, okay, but how does that impact me? So on the elementary school level, the parent's is thinking, gosh, how does that impact me? On the secondary school level, the student may be thinking, how does that impact me? So remember, brag and benefit, we call it. Brag and benefit. What are the benefits to your brag points? Really, really important piece. Always a great idea to have this down on paper. And those who are working with you in open house to share those key messages. Can't stress the messaging piece and unity of the messaging enough. When we want someone to really understand us, when we want to communicate at a high level, the messages need to be repeated. And so if you've got, as I'm sure many of you do, parents and faculty and support staff and students and alums, and even some of your leaders from parish council or school board or whatever involved in your open house, really important that they know what to promote, that the messengers speak the same message. So in terms of this, promotion and preparation, some suggestions, and these are coming from across the country. Maybe there's a save the date cards that you send out or hand out. I've had one school that had the open house date printed on a little index card, and they give every faculty member, every student, every parent, give them 5 or 10 cards and say hand out to whomever. Your website banner, day-to-day countdown. Once again, this is a wonderful piece to look at. I was having a conversation with my daughter's admissions director at Mount Carmel Academy here in New Orleans, and they have on their website not only a day-to-day countdown, but they also have a place where people can register. And Michelle Rigney, the admissions director there, indicated that, gosh, Frank, not only is this a great idea where people can register for open house on our website, it lets us see who's coming, and it lets us it's great for when they come and register, and it's great for emails after the open house. And so once again, I was asking, I said, Michelle, well, how many people do register? 60% of the people actually come to open house register on our website, so we know who's coming. So great ideas in terms of promotion, preparation, yard signs, flyers, social media. Even had a school that does a little YouTube promo with a little video, public service announcements. Some even use billboards, flyers, bulletin releases in church parishes, news releases, faculty, student, parent, alum referrals, personal. We talked about that at the Back to School Night webinar last month. Personal invitations, group presentations to feeder sources, contacting all your feeder sources, your partner schools, your partner parishes, signs and banners on your site, database invites, where we even have some schools that have bought lists of children in demographic areas by zip code that are a certain age and sent that out. Direct mail invites with a video link, maybe a little 1-minute video with a student inviting people to open house. Collaboration, obviously, with others in regards to if you're part of other schools in that area. Key events in your community where you can promote this, key events at your school, football games, and the like. Great many promotional suggestions that we see and hear all across the country, and that's what this is. Testimonial promos. I've run across several schools that have done this actually on their website, where they have a student or a parent, and they click on this, and there's a 30-second infomercial. The phone receptionist, does the phone receptionist answer your phone by saying, good morning, Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Elementary School. Please be reminded of our open house coming up on October 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever. Visitors to the school, do they get a little card about the open house? Are there announcements on every desk of anybody who would answer a phone in the building, whether it be the cafeteria or the main office or wherever? So once again, these are some ideas on promotion and preparation. These are coming from many schools. These are coming from ideas we've created, but once again, that ability to promote. And then in-house, having a checklist and a to-do list, maybe even using this webinar's items to create that checklist. Okay, so we now move to the packet or the package. Now, which means, what do you hand out at open house? And this is always interesting. In the hundreds of packages and packets we've seen and been part of, there are many differing opinions. Some people believe that less is best, and others believe that more is best. So that all depends on you, depends on your culture. I can tell you what we believe is that we believe that there needs to be a packet, possibly a pocket folder, where it's not a bunch of disparate pieces that make no sense. So that's important. Be organized in what you present. I've seen some open houses and materials where it's all in a brown envelope, and you look in there and there's 20 sheets of paper. So once again, organize it. How do you want people to read it? How do you want people to see it? One school out in the Diocese of Austin uses a backpack approach, where it's not an actual backpack, but it's the brochure is called a backpack, and it has in it the vital information. So we'd like you to consider some of the following in this package and packet. Now, we're not saying, please do not think we're saying put all this in your packet. Here are some things to consider, though. A pocket folder or a bag with the school name and logo and contact information, the school brochure, possibly a promotional testimonial, a CD with testimonial, map of the school, maybe a Q&A document, the most often asked questions that you think prospective families. Maybe there is a card that says what to do if you're interested in step 1, step 2, step 3. I like that one. I'll talk about that one later. Fill-in cards inviting prospective students to come on your campus in the future. Camps and bring a friend shadow days and fun and games and all these types of things where you can bring people on campus. And then evaluation or input form of the open house. I think it's great to evaluate and get some input. A trinket or a gift of some kind with the school's name on it. I'm sure a lot of you do a lot of this, but it is a time for all key constituents, to really become involved. And so this packet or package of information, once again, you decide what you need. And I'm sure I've seen that there are schools that have many other unique things other than what's on this particular slide. So let's go to involvement, because obviously we find it's a great time for faculty and staff, for students, for your present parents, your alums, possibly even school leaders, but these are the main 4 groups that we encourage you to really involve. And so with that in mind, let's look at what each of these groups could do. Obviously, with faculty and staff, they could be part of the promotion ahead of time, the hospitality, and obviously the in-classroom, the tour, to serve as tour guide, special area presentations. Faculty and staff could certainly be involved in many, many ways, and I'm sure all of you use your faculty and staff in a really good way, and they're very, very important. Your students can be greeters and tour guides. They can make presentations. They can help with warming up the buildings through decorations. They can help in promotion. And we'll talk about this later. They could also be a videographer. Nothing wrong, as we mentioned in the back to school night, where you've got a student or 2 or 3 walking around and shooting some video. They could do it on their iPad. They could do it on their iPhone. And you can edit that down. And guess what? Within 24 hours, as we'll see, you can send that out with a link and a thank you letter through email. Your present parents and alumni, they can help in promotion, putting yard signs up. They can help in hospitality. They can be greeters. They can be tour guides. They can make presentations. Why I sent my child to the school, a little room, that has that. Alumni, why graduating and being part of this elementary school was so important for me in preparing me for secondary school. They can be part of registration. So as you look at the involvement levels, I think it's important that you really promote this peer-to-peer. Because as you look at students and parents and alums, involving them, that allows you to really get that peer-to-peer conversation and question that sometimes administrators, admissions directors, faculty members, staff members may not hear, or people may not want to ask, or the parent wants to talk to another parent. The parent wants to see what that alum has to say about it all. Students want to talk to students. So the involvement piece becomes really important, obviously. In terms of focus areas, this also becomes a question. And what do you focus on? Here are the ones that we see the most often, where that you're going to highlight. Obviously, your Catholicity, your Catholic identity, the reason we are what we are, academics, athletics. Maybe you're highlighting your wow, whatever that wow is, your extracurriculars, your student activities, your technology, your facilities, your tuition assistance. But once again, taking a look at where are you going to focus this? Where are you going to focus this? And these can be brought out in classroom presentations, visuals, booth displays, demonstrations, videos, special presentations, hands-on teaching instruction, fun and games, tour guide conversations, testimonial classrooms, like the alum that talks about how she benefited so greatly by being part of that Catholic school. We're going to talk about the closing room, which we will look at enrollment number 14. And I really will spend a fair amount of time in that area. So activities at the open house. Activities are so important because, people are willing to listen, but they want to be drawn in. They want to feel part of something. That's that quote again, belonging leads to believing. People want to belong. And so if what your open house is all about is just giving out information and having people listen to others talk, of which is necessary, I think that it's important, as we say, how can you involve them? How can you engage them? How can they leave your school saying, I was involved, I was engaged in this open house. So rooms and areas where prospective students can participate, maybe through experiments, maybe through technology, maybe through computer games, maybe through whatever. I know one school that does a great job of a scavenger hunt, where the scavenger hunt leads people all over the school to different areas. Performances by cheerleaders and dance team where there's audience participation. Once again, there can be a cutting from a student play. Demonstrations people can get involved in. Same thing with science experiments. The technology hands-on, the athletic games, the cheers that involve all. Let people do the best you can to let people feel like they are involved, that they belong, that they are part of something. And once again, this will go a long way. It will go a long way. As opposed to someone just coming to the open house and going from one station to another station, to another station, to another station, opening presentation, station, closing presentation, milk, cookies, punch, go home. So once again, what can you do to really make that happen? So with this in mind, as we just said, the least effective way is where people simply feel like they're being talked to or talked at. And so we really encourage you, and you can tell I'm emphasizing this, seek ways where people will leave saying to themselves, yes, this is the place for our family. Really important, one chance to make that first impression. So first impressions are important. From the moment that prospective family comes onto your campus, whether they're driving, whether they're walking, make them feel like they belong. Great care should be given to the following: signage, parking, directions, greeters, traffic flow. This is important. That's the first impression. Believe it or not, their first impression is not when they make that tour. Their first impression is when they come on your campus. What is that like? And so in terms of that, if these pieces are addressed, the family will know they're coming into a quote-unquote customer service environment. They'll know where to go, what to do. Students greeting people in the parking lots. Parents greeting people in the parking lots. Alums greeting people in the parking lots. You know, obviously it's important to capture information. And so, once again, you've got to give out this packet. The very best customer service people need to be quote-unquote staffing your welcome tables and or areas. This could be a parent, this could be a faculty member, staff member, could be a student. First impressions. People who come to your open house are your guests. Very, very important. So that greeting, you can have people fill in the proper forms, and when people come, we have schools that have this done on a laptop or an iPad. They have iPad, laptop, computer stations. People come in, register right then and there. And then those who have done this in advance, like Mount Carmel Academy that I mentioned earlier, they do it in advance, and boom, they've got 60% of the people already registered. But instead of, you know, once again, this can be done with computer stations. I've seen it done best with iPads. They can get their packets, their name tags, be introduced to their tour guides, possibly, if you're using tour guides. And you can certainly have activities and excitement going on as people wait in line, cheering and dancing and music and refreshments. You know, select that physical welcome area very carefully so as not to bottle people up. Really important you spend time with that first impression piece. Then again, there are those in the minority, but who hand out the majority of the information at the closing session. And once again, that can be done too. But we recommend that 4 action steps be taken in this welcoming process. That when people come on the campus and park on the streets and the parking lot, and of course on the streets within your school boundaries with supervision, you know, you don't want a 7th grader standing out on the street 3 blocks away from campus. So once again, greeting, welcoming, and directing as the folks arrive on campus. This could be parents, students, alums. Handing out information and possibly gathering information in the welcoming area. Introduction of tour guides. This could be one family where 1 tour guide or 2 tour guides or 3 tour guides tours one family, or maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 families. Official welcoming presentation by a credible, respected person can be done in 5 or 10 minutes. That sets the tone. So let's just put it in this perspective. Here come these folks, whether your open house attracts 20 new students or 200 new students. Here come folks to your open house. They're welcomed, they're greeted in the parking lot, they have signs, they come into the school, they're shown where to get their information, they register, the very best people are registering them. There's maybe the band maybe is playing in the background, the cheerleaders are cheering, maybe music is playing and the dance team is dancing, but there's a lot of just activity where people see that things are going on. If you have a school mascot and somebody's dressed up in the mascot, they can be greeting people. All kinds of things like that. All kind of things like, and so then, boom, they are brought to this welcoming presentation. Many times that's the president or the principal or the pastor, you know, and they make or the board president, or someone who can come across as obviously credible and respected, but someone who really can articulate well. So that becomes important. We're ready to go, ready to set up some type of schedule or tour. We believe in tour guides for each family or small group, and two or 3 tour guides work well. These could be students, parents, faculty, staff who do not have the classroom responsibilities. They could be board members, a parish council member, an alum. Remember, key points for tour guides: people-oriented, not pushy, good listeners. Good listeners. They love the school. They don't get defensive when someone brings up something challenging or an improvement area. Then they're receptive to training. Very receptive to training. Really, really important. In the majority of Catholic schools that we see across the country, the tour guides work well. they work well. Even if it's a small group of people, they work well. And so with the tour guides, they understand the messaging. They stay on track and on time. They know the logistics of the plan of action. You've done a dress rehearsal or two. And the whole purpose is that belonging leads to believing. They continue to build those relationships. Now, there are all kinds of schedules to follow. They have open houses where they're time driven. They're open-ended. People can come at any time. They're key presentation times. Now, what we have found to be effective is when you have the open-ended approach, where prospective families can come to your elementary school, to your high school, anytime within given hours, between 6 and 8:30 p.m., or 5 and 7 p.m., or 4 and 6 p.m., or whatever it may be. Okay? 2 to 5 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. Whenever a family arrives is when their tour begins. And so with this in mind, a prospective family would follow this kind of schedule, as we said a little while ago. Welcome and greeting, introduction to tour guides. The tour guides take the family to the opening presentation, and this is always happening. And the tour guide tours the family through focus areas, usually 6 or 10 focus areas. We talked about that earlier. They sprinkle the tour with 1 or 2 involvement or exciting activities. They bring the family to the closing area, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then they take the family to refreshments and performance areas, or to invite to games and activities. So this is what we have seen throughout the country as working really well, whether it's an elementary school or whether it is a secondary school or a pre-K through 12 school or a regional school. So as you look at all of this, I think it's important that you take a look and see what best fits you. I encourage you to, once again, be open to all of this. And so here's where we need to go. I talked about this 3 or 4 times already, and to us, this is super important. We call it the closing room, and where all your guests, prospective families would end up before they're invited for refreshments. This is the area where you present information about what to do if you're interested, next best steps for becoming a member of our faith community, where to from here. You answer those questions. And so we're not saying to do all of this, but we're saying that some of this is important. And so your very best presenter, administrator, parent, faculty member, board member, alum, needs to be the one to close out the visit. Now, this person, as we said, well-respected. Internally, well-respected. Very energetic, motivational, can speak well, and credible. Key person. I've seen schools do this, and the presenter in the closing room, quote unquote, was not effective. So, once again, really, really important step. Many times it is the principal. In this quote unquote close, you should be able to refer to key cards in the packet that they can fill in and leave with you that day. Now, I'm not saying to use all of these cards. I'm saying these are sample cards you could take a look at and say to yourself, which one or ones of these would we want to have? Or maybe there's a sheet that has a combination of some of these. There is the shadow day card, where they would sign up to come for a shadow day. There's the call us card, where please give us a call. There's the question card, where if you have any questions, please indicate what those questions are. There's the evaluation card, where they can evaluate the open house. There is what we really are looking for card, where they can indicate what specifically turns that family on. What are they interested in? Fine arts? Are they interested in student-teacher ratio? What are they interested in? And then this card at the bottom is one that I've always believed in. Those of you that have taken our workshops, those of you that we've consulted with, those of you that have taken this webinar know that I pound on this. I think this is a very important card. This is a card very, 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 very few Catholic schools ever utilize. But it says, let's visit. Let's visit. This is a card that can be filled out where the family would say, I'd like to visit with you one-on-one and have a conversation. I'd like to talk further about our needs as a family. I'd like to talk a little bit further about whether this is a good fit for our family. And so let's visit. Let's do this one-on-one. This is not a group thing again. This is after the open house. Let's have a visit. And so this is what I've talked about for years and years and years. And I find, believe it or not, which is very encouraging, more and more Catholic schools are looking at this possibility. The Let's Visit card is that relationship building card. So closing and follow-up. I think it's also important that collecting whatever card you ask for is important because it gives you ways to continue the relationship. Don't let them leave that open house if you can help it by taking those cards with them. So the presenter in the closing goes through key information forms in the packet and actually holds up the cards. Maybe there's 2 or 3 cards you want them to fill in. Okay? And then 2 unique things we've seen Catholic schools do for those attending open house was within 24 hours, all the families got an email, thank you for attending. And this email had a link to a short 1 to 2 minute video that was taken by a student or a parent at open house, and it was filled with all kind of people and activities of that open house, Plus, each student tour guide hand wrote a note to the prospective student, to the, especially when it's secondary, to the family, especially if it's elementary school, thanking them, them for visiting and saying how great it was to meet them. So once again, 2 follow-up things. Plus you got the cards. What are they interested in? So the closing room is really, really important. It gives you information. You're able to gather information. And so with this in mind, it comes down to really customer service. Are we willing to go that extra mile? Are we willing to realize that this open house, as you can tell in this presentation, it's only one step in the process of building a lifelong partnership between you and that family. A lifelong partnership. Think of this. Think of the people that are going to be coming through your doors that you are going to, this is the beginning of a relationship that could last for years and years and years and years. Think of it that way. So in the closing, make sure that the presenter spends the majority of the time on that piece that articulates what to do if you're interested. I think that and the Let's Visit card, are so important. And maybe one other that asks questions, lets them check shadow days, maybe, So there should be action items associated with this card. What to do if you're interested. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. So, is your open house, is it going to be, or has it been in the past, cold or warm? In working with Catholic churches, we often say that families coming to worship usually can determine in the first 5 minutes whether that church is cold or warm. And many times it happens out before they even sit down in the pew. The same true is here. Really is. What makes a Catholic school warm, as we all know, is people. Those who genuinely want to serve. Oh, we got to do this again this year? That's not the culture you want. And yet there are other intangibles that add to the warmth. The decorations in the classrooms, the hallways, outside of the school, the mascot dancing, the kids cheering, the people in uniforms greeting people in the parking lots, music and exciting activities and lighting and smells. I know that seems strange, but I have to tell the story of this school up in Pennsylvania that it was a three-story school building. And in the basement was the cafeteria. And every morning, and even for open house, but every morning they would bake homemade bread And the smells of homemade bread would permeate through the floors, through the walls, and when you step foot in the building, anytime between 7:30 and noon, it was the greatest warm feeling of almost like grandma making homemade bread for Thanksgiving. That's what I mean by smells. Your smell's good. And then the dress, the costumes, the uniforms, the outfits. And so this warm open house begins way before the event itself. It begins with a lot of those things we talked about earlier. It begins when your school and all of its leaders make a commitment to serve and build relationships. We throw aside any past beliefs and lingering thoughts that say, hey, we've always done it this way, we're going to continue to do it. You know, it's a new time, it's a new era. So much is going on, especially with the advent of social media, where we can do so many things to make things happen. After 25 plus years in this business, especially in this environment, we've got to do things differently. We've got to take a look at how we can make it happen. The open house is not a one-person show. It's not the one or two people that run it all. It's a team effort. A team effort we can really engage people with and make some things really exciting happen. And by that team effort, we certainly mean your admissions, your advancement, development, marketing folks, obviously, but your administration, your faculty, your staff, your parent leaders, your alum leaders, your students. What a wonderful time to have a team effort where it's more than just warm. We definitely see it as warm, and it's not something that's cold. So as we said, we've got to look at creativity. Innovative, ingenious, creative cannot just be words. They've got to take a look at new ideas and new discoveries. In fact, in graduate school, my master's work was spent a whole year studying Mark Twain with Dr. Milton Rickles up at ULL in Lafayette, Louisiana. And he's one of my favorites. I think he said that first bullet point there, I think he said it best. Years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you did not do than by the ones that you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail. Explore, dream, discover. Open house can be a wonderful time to explore new ideas. You can dream about what can happen when you really open up wide the doors to Christ. And you can discover many things that maybe, quite possibly, you never thought you could pull off, but you will be able to. Step up and lead. Please, that open house can be the very best it could ever be. As part of this, we'd like to share with you in the next 3 to 4 minutes some very exciting things here that we are responding to. One of the most exciting things I think we have now done in our 25 years as a company is what we're getting ready to start offering. There are many Catholic, especially elementary schools, that because of budget, because of many reasons, need help, need guidance, need coaching, but the budgets are tight. And so therefore, we work with a lot of Catholic schools across the country. And many times the work that we do is work that we've got to travel to, we've got to rent cars, we've got to stay in hotels and the like. But we'd like to present our executive coaching that we're getting ready to begin in October, that we're going to offer to individual Catholic schools. This will be for principals, presidents, advancement development directors, admissions, enrollment management directors, school board chairs. And this could be done individually, by two, by a small team. But this will be made available through GoToMeeting, phone conversations, emails, and video conferencing. Up to 5 hours per month in direct conversation via online and phone vehicles. And I'm going to be the one as the executive coach to start all this off. And we will walk you through specific advancement, development, enrollment, management, successful strategies based upon our 25 plus years of working. And through monthly coaching and conversations, we will come to know your situation, your challenges, and we will offer quote-unquote best practices from Catholic schools across the country. It'll be made available to each school each month for up to 5 hours per month through phone conversations, individual or conference, regularly scheduled, as well as on-call, go-to meetings with PowerPoint presentations, video conferencing when necessary, and then made available throughout that month to that individual school will be email conversations, plus, based upon that school's needs, access to our library of thousands of resources, PowerPoints and videos and planning processes, agendas, surveys, letters, scripts, training booklets, checklists, all customized to that individual school. We're excited about it. The areas of concentration will depend upon your school's needs. And we're going to start with 10 schools in October. And so if you're interested on the survey, that's a question, and I'll be glad to get in touch with you. We have done everything we can to try and make this not only affordable, but also something where we can coach you. And there is going to be an opportunity, especially for us to build that relationship and have you and me work together in your advancement, development, enrollment management efforts. The last thing we'd like to show is what we showed at the Back to School webinar, and that was we have advantage that we live here on 25 acres of land in South Louisiana, and we are going to begin this year in 15-16 offering 3 retreats a year for teams, and it will be on our home. It'll be 3 retreats a year, and we will invite 3 or 4 advancement teams, marketing teams, enrollment management teams at a time to come from different Catholic schools across the country. And we'll focus on your advancement, development, enrollment management efforts. And one of the main outcomes will be an exciting and written energetic plan of action. And obviously through team meetings and peer sharing, educational workshops, informal dinner discussions, strategy planning, one-on-one sessions, we're going to be able to work with teams. It's 3 days and 3 nights, Sunday evening through Wednesday morning. The amenities is transportation to and from airport, transportation from the retreat to the hotel, which is 10 minutes away. It's a Clarion. Homemade meals. My wife Susie is going to be cooking for these 3 retreats. She's a good Southern cook, and so we'll have homemade meals on Sunday evening, and 3 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, and 1 on Wednesday, and Mass each day. We'll have the retreat binder, and then in a retreat setting. And we are very fortunate that my family left this to us. And so we'd like to once again encourage anyone who may be interested to let us know. We'll begin sometime in between now and the end of December, our first retreat. And then we'll do 1 in the spring and 1 in the summer of 2016. So once again, we're right on the river, as you can see, and we're anxious to work with teams. We're also very anxious to work with individual schools as we move this forward. So this has been a pleasure for me to present this. It's a very timely topic, very interesting topic, and so because of that, I think it's important. A couple of questions. As you talk about news release issue, we have a plan in place for earned media in advance of the open house. Very definitely, yes. Talked a little bit about that. Could we get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, that will happen. Please fill in the survey right as you leave and check out. The top 10, I'll be glad to send that to you. Just send me an email and I'll be glad to send it. Okay, I see where that's coming from. In terms of any strategies on how to approach the parish and get their registered parishioner list of school-age children, I would hope that would be made available, because this is simply an opportunity that you're asking the parish to allow you to do. It's not something that you're individually targeting, but you simply would like to send some information. I mentioned in this presentation that there are some referral forms, and that may be something you might want to look at. Where you can get faculty and staff to fill in a referral form where you could send information to people they would recommend, as well as students, as well as parents, as well as you, if you're a parochial school, as well as your parishioners. So, so I think it's important. What are some best practices for getting teachers to send marketing development pictures or snippets of what they're doing in their classroom? You know, shoot me an email. There's a school that we've run across that has a really nice form that they use, that they send out to faculty once a month, and ask the faculty to fill it in. And I'll be glad to send you a copy of that. And it's very effective. Is it effective? Is it good to have athletic practices going on during open house? Yeah, I think you can have that as long as it doesn't interfere. You know, with in terms of a noise and visual distraction. I think that's fine. Should major donors be invited to the same open house as prospective students? I'm not seeing the connection there. I think that's something separate. The open house for prospective students is just that, unless that prospective family has financial means and you're looking at them at that way. If we only focus on one area of our campus for improvements, would that place be the school lobby or another area? Maybe it's introductions. You know, it depends. You know, in terms of when they come on campus, what is the very best place where you don't get a log jam and you get the very best place for things to happen? Is there a very best time to hold open house? I've always said for high schools, it's in the fall of the year, and for elementary schools, it's during Catholic Schools Week. And this is not to say you only have to do one open house. I know a number of schools who do the big comprehensive open house, and they do one or two smaller open houses geared to specific areas, like maybe STEM, or maybe like lower elementary education. You know, so I think it's important, but I think it's important that you look at this. One more question here before I move on. Here we go. Yeah, I will send that the top 10 for sure. Be glad to. I think those are most of the questions. And once again, please stay on when I sign off and fill in the short survey. And I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. This hopefully is something that has been beneficial. I hope this is something that you've been able to glean maybe a few ideas about. These are a lot of best practices. And once again, do let us know. You know, if you have any questions, there's a place on the survey for that. And hopefully this has been something that you've been able to gather some good information with you from. I wish you all the very best in terms of your open house this year. I'm sure it'll be hugely successful. And if I had to leave you with one thought, well, maybe two. Number one, make sure that welcoming peace stands out front. And make sure, number two, that you do everything you can to involve people in your open house process. Once again, best wishes. I'm sure your open house will be great. Let us hear from you. And thank you for being on board today as an attendee. Bye now.